Well, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for the Unity of Claremont Sunday lesson for October the 11th, 2020. Today's lesson is from The Eye of the Storm by Dr. Gary Simmons. We are on part 5, The Four Winds of Conflict. As we progress through Dr. Gary Simmons' book, we now have come to an understanding that the storms of our lives are the result of the meanings we give our experiences and the human tendency to project those meanings out onto the world, so that the storm, which is actually internal and subject to our control, appears to be external and beyond our control. But seen from the Christ of our being, we can choose to see the storm as a growth opportunity instead of an overwhelming threat. Now we are ready to examine the elements of our storms, recognize, name, and tame them. They are separation, misperception, competition, and defensiveness. So we first look at the wind of separation. Separation is a strategy we learn as little kids in response to the failures of our parents and caretakers to make us feel safe and loved. This separation strategy then turned into a paradigm, a way of looking at and dealing with the world. Separation can be just a physical act, like walking away or closing the door. However, it can also become your whole approach to all painful experiences. You can separate yourself from others. You can also separate yourself from yourself. You can separate yourself from God. If your toe hurts, do you attack it? No, because you're in communion with your toe. You are one with your toe. As part of a workshop I once took before I discovered Unity, I was asked to visualize myself in a totally safe environment, somewhere no power on earth could invade to do me harm. I closed my eyes and mentally conjured up a metal sphere like a spaceship that could transport me anywhere I wanted to go, but within which I would be safe and untouchable. I could see and interact with the world, but I would be shielded from harm in any form. This image was not only based on a worldview of separation, it utilized separation as a defense. My safety lay in complete separation. Separation as the ultimate answer to my problems. Years later, I did this guided meditation again, but my paradigm had changed. I had shed my childhood strategy of safety by separation. This time, when I was instructed to visualize a place of complete safety, I spontaneously pictured myself strolling along the beach without armor or defenses of any kind, being one with a loving and supporting universe. This second meditation was a vision of communion. Communion, which literally means union with, and is the opposite of separation. We've been using the term projection to express the idea that that the storms we experience are not actually outside of us. They are actually internal creations projected onto the screen of our world. Whatever is occurring, We project onto the situation the meaning it has for us. Our thoughts create a certain paradigm, and we see through the self-centered lens of inadequacy and weakness a storm of separation, misperception, competition, and defensiveness. When we make the shift from separation consciousness to communion consciousness, we give up victimhood and claim responsibility. We make the shift from how can I protect myself from this external storm to how do I transform this internal blessing. Once you grasp this concept, you will see it everywhere. Lesson 153 in the workbook for students of A Course in Miracles is, "In my defenselessness, my safety lies." This lesson brings home the understanding that when we attack, we are really attacking ourselves because the storm is not really outside, but inside. The next wind of conflict is the wind of misperception. We perceive according to our worldview. For instance, when you're driving and a horn honks, what's your first response? Do you immediately interpret it as a criticism and respond with anger? Or you might assume it's a request, a way of asking to be given space to enter the lane. A third response might be to assume that it's a friendly effort to say hello, or to warn you that your gas cap is open or you even have a flat tire. Or you simply might assume that the honk is not meant for you at all. Whatever your response, it will be the product of your worldview, not pure perception. When we view the world from the self-image of weakness and incompleteness, much of what we observe will be perceived as threatening. The person who knows himself or herself to be whole and complete will see opportunities in every challenge. Their horizons expand. The remedy for misperception is to choose to see the world differently. See the world from the viewpoint of your wholeness and not from the viewpoint of incompleteness. The next wind of conflict is the wind of competition. When your wants and needs are the same as mine, we naturally cooperate, like two playful pups engaged in a tug of war with a toy. However, in every relationship, there will be differences between wants, needs, and priorities. When any party views their situation from the viewpoint of insufficiency, competition arises, creating conflict. The end result is that the loser feels diminished and the winner becomes dependent on winning to feel whole and complete. In everyday life, this often takes the form of needing to be right. When your self-esteem depends on winning an argument, you are seeing the conflict from the point of view of insufficiency. There's a difference between enjoying the game and needing to win. From an attitude of wholeness and authenticity, it's okay for the other person to be right. Being wrong, or not winning, cannot diminish a consciousness of wholeness. I once took care of three little girls, sisters, between the ages of 6 and 9. If the three girls were each involved in drawing a horse, and I said to the first sister, "That doesn't really look like a horse," she would set to work furiously erasing and redrawing, obviously upset. If I said to the second little sister, "That doesn't look like a horse," she would say, "It's not a horse. I decided to draw a dog instead." And if I said to the third sister, "That doesn't look like a horse," she would simply take the drawing and consider it for a moment before stating, "Yeah, you're right." The first sister saw herself as a loser and endured the self-inflicted pain of those who feel insecure in themselves. The second sister was equally insecure, but had developed a strategy to mask her insecurity even from herself. The third sister had the freedom of knowing that it's all right not to be right. The fourth wind of conflict is the wind of defensiveness. Defensiveness is the most physical of the winds of conflict. Your muscles stiffen and your energy field collapses, causing a reaction to those around you. They, in turn, will tend to become defensive also. They will instinctively resonate with your fear. Defensiveness implies a threat, usually an unspoken or even unconscious threat, that results in people separating, distancing themselves from one another, both physically and mentally. Defensiveness tends to paralyze the logical functions of the brain, and the more primitive fight or flight instincts take over. Once defensiveness sets into a situation, no resolution can be reached until those involved can be guided to seeing things from a different perspective. Okay, I'm going to share with you one of my guilty pleasures. One of my favorite TV shows is called Forged in Fire. It's a blacksmithing competition. Each week, 4 blacksmiths compete in a timed competition to create a weapon like a knife, a sword, or a spear from a variety of assigned materials. The 3 judges in the competition are always 2 master smiths and a martial arts expert. The judges personally test the final products produced by the contestants for strength, sharpness, and practicality as a weapon. In one surprising episode, a judge was testing the strength of a large sword, which broke, sending a 2-foot section of razor-sharp blade flying through the air right toward the other 3 judges. The other 2 judges. The 2 blacksmith judges and the program moderator scattered, arms up to protect their heads from the blade. The martial arts expert, however, instinctively stepped forward to catch it and protect the other judges. His paradigm, his worldview of this situation was of wholeness and confidence. He was able to act, not just react defensively, because he saw the situation from the eyes of an accomplished weapons and martial arts expert. Of course, his reaction was the result of years of learning and practice. When we view the winds of conflict that inevitably blow through all of our lives with the eyes of the Christ of our being, we are empowered by faith to instinctively know how to respond and not just react. Like the martial arts expert, we can step forward to do that which is best for all concerned. Whatever the challenge, the Christ of our being says confidently, I got this. But just like the martial arts expert, this mindset takes time to develop. It takes study and practice. As we've progressed through this book, I've suggested different assignments, such as listing the storms in your life. Now that we have examined the four winds of conflict, you are equipped not only to recognize your storms, but to see which wind of conflict, or which winds of conflict, is dominant in any given storm. Each wind represents a different aspect of your consciousness that needs to be healed and made whole. So for this week's assignment, I suggest a chart with 5 sections, like the one displayed in this slide. I've given you some examples. Of course, your storms can be named more specifically. After you have listed your storms, go back and note which wind or winds of conflict are involved in each particular storm. In this example, I've written some common storms to get you started. Notice that there may be only one dominant wind involved in a storm, but often you will find that 2 or more winds are blowing at the same time. I think and hope that just the act of examining the storms of your life in such detail will change your perspective. Making and thinking about this chart will help you to see what needs to be healed, and then you can decide to heal yourself from the inside out, instead of contending hopelessly with forces that seem beyond your control. Of course, our work will not end here. Our goal is to establish in our consciousness the remedies for each of these winds, the attributes of wholeness. So stay tuned, because next week we will continue in our study of this wonderful book. To heal the wind of separation, we will establish the attribute of communion. To heal the wind of misperception, we will establish the attribute of principle. To heal the wind of competition, we will establish the attribute of purpose. And to heal the wind of defensiveness, we will establish the attribute of non-resistance. In conclusion, let's be still a moment and center ourselves in the Christ of our being. From this sacred center, call to mind one of the storms of your life, large or small. I will read for you the affirmations to calm any storm and give you time to silently affirm each part. I am now centered in the Christ of my being, knowing that I am whole, perfect, and complete. I accept, value, and embrace this situation as a growth opportunity. Using my faith power, I bless it and declare it to be for the good of all. I am guided and empowered to do the right thing in this situation. Amen. So be it. And so it is. Finally, I remind you again that you can send your love offerings by check to Unity of Claremont, Post Office Box 641, Mineola, Florida 34755. Or you can go to our website, unityofclaremont.com, and click on the donate button to make a contribution using your credit card. So, I'm wishing you to have a wonderful week. This is Nancy Willingham, and remember, you have the power to conquer every storm.